when a soul exists in another form of life, and there's a whole complicated system how it works, in which other form of life it enters, but the basic understanding is that it depends on the level of the soul spiritual evolvement. There are periods of time that it goes into this, the soul enters into this animal. This is a living being, or a vegetation, or an inanimate, a stone. There's certain periods of time that it enters, and it exists there for certain months of the year. And the Arizal actually details this in very great detail of which months of the year the soul elevate from daimim, from inanimate, and which months of the year do they elevate from tzemeach, and which one from chai. There's a whole process, but it goes in for a certain period of time. The intention is very simple. Everything of creation besides the human being is perfect. The only one that's not perfect, or potentially not perfect, is the human being, because he can make free choices and do something that's opposite of his internal spiritual nature. So in order for the soul to unlearn their negative behavior or reactive behavior, the soul enters into another form of life which is perfect, which is doing exactly what it's doing. The apple tree is being an apple tree, which really the human being should have been the human, but he wasn't. And by being there for a certain period of time, it learns its lesson, and it can finally be released. And some way through that, it can also experience some form of Gan Eden, some form of paradise. So it's a cleansing period for the soul to reach its proper potential. Because of that, let's say there's a soul of a human being in an apple, and you're going to eat now this apple. So now it becomes very interesting, because what you're going to do now is now you have the potential, because of your free choice, to elevate the soul that's trapped in this item of food. Or if you're walking down the street, for that matter, and this is a soul under your feet, connected into the inanimate objects under your feet, if you're going to walk with a higher consciousness and with an intention, and make a blessing over the apple, and do it with kavanah, with intention, for the elevation of this food, for a higher purpose, then you have the potential to release the soul from its torment even before its alluded time. So if the soul has to exist in this apple for 6 months, because that's how long it has to finally unlearn its doing. But if a human being comes along, a day later, makes a blessing with a proper intention, that they can actually elevate the soul that exists within these animals, and the other fruits. This is the reason why, besides everything else, we have to be very careful with what we do in this world, certainly what we eat. Because when you eat something, eating is always a process of taking in energy. You're always taking in energy. Even if the apple just has an apple soul, and you're eating the apple, you're taking in the energy of the apple soul. Whatever that is, it's some energy, some form of energy. You're not living off the physical object itself. Person doesn't live from the actual physical object. It's from the spirit of Hashem. The spiritual animating force is really what's giving us our chayas, giving us our life. So when you eat something, you think you're eating it because of the physical thing, but it's really the spiritual nourishment that you receive from it. That's how you exist. So when you eat something, you're internalizing whatever you're eating. If a person cooks or bakes something and puts in a lot of intention and a lot of love, you're eating that. But God forbid if it's the opposite, then you're eating anger. It's literal this way. You're bringing in energy. That's on one level. But then on a deeper level, you have to think about what happens if there's a soul there. Now the soul there is a very complicated soul, because this is a soul that hasn't yet been elevated. The soul that still has to work out its afterlife process. You have a big obligation that when you eat something, you should eat it with intention, make a proper blessing, and then you eat it for a higher purpose. Because if you don't, what you're doing then is you're bringing in to your life, you're bringing in something that's potentially negative, something that's potentially harmful.